Okay, laugh at Ed. I did. I grabbed the wrong part. So what I'm going to do is take the unit that I started to build, and I'm going to put it aside and make sure I get the little set screw and the pin out of the way, and we'll start over here. Go ahead and grab your unit and open it up. Grab your unit. Okay. Go ahead and grab the front spindle CV unit. There's a pin in there. Don't get it confused with the other pins. A bone. This little dealy bopper. And the spindle. Again, check your bag. Make sure there's nothing in it. Alright, so where were we? Let's put a little bit of grease into the hole here. Slide that in. Again, we're going to make sure that the hole is lined up with the slot. Put the spindle on here, and the hole in the spindle is going to line up with the slot on the bone and the hole in the little dealy bopper on the inside. Doesn't matter which of the 4 holes you use on here. There's actually an extra set of holes in case this wears out. You can just spin it. We're going to push that pin in until it's flush. Pretty straightforward. Okay, now we're going to grab the left hand and we're going to slide this in through the spindle, in through the back, which is where the larger bearing is, and we're going to seat it inside that bearing. Now, if you can see, it's not going all the way in, and the reason is that pin is sticking out a little bit. So we're just going to use a little tool or a fingernail or something and push that pin in until that fully seats down inside. And it should spin freely. Yay! Now we're going to insert one of our spindle pins right here. And we're going to insert that through the hole here, just like so. And then on the back of the hexes, you're going to see that there is a little key slot. We're going to slide that over and rotate it until it falls down onto the pin. And then we are going to insert the little screw. And you can do that, you can put the screw in first if you choose. I'm finding for some reason that these screw heads are very, very tight. I know my tools are the proper size, but the screw heads on some of the stuff are very, very tight. I noticed that on the diff screws as well. So we'll pre-insert that one and I'll put it on. It's a little bit easier. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and make sure it's fully seated and snug up the screw. Drivers, like I said, are not wanting to fit inside these screw heads. Very odd. I saw that earlier, and off camera I tried a different set of tools, and it's not the, okay, we'll go ahead and snug that up, and it's not the tool, it's the screws. Okay, so that is what it's going to look like when you're done. There's going to be a little bit of play in there, which is okay. If you, later on if you want, you can shim that out, but that's how it is. We're going to go ahead and build the right side off camera, and we'll have it ready to go. Okay. Okay, on to step, wobbly camera. Don't get dizzy. On to step B6. We're going to assemble the front suspension arm along with the spindle and the spindle carrier, etc., so that we have a front suspension. First off, again, just like the other suspension parts, these are marked left and right. You can see right there is a left and a right. I've assembled both of my arms because we're going to, or both the arm pieces onto separate left and right, and here's a pile of parts for the left and a pile of parts for the right, or whichever. First thing we're going to have to do is on mine, we have a tree part here that we're going to have to cut off. It's fairly thick, you can't just really break it off with your hands, so you're going to have to use a cutter. Go ahead and cut that off. And then when you do that, you're going to want to make sure that it's all smooth across here so you don't get any binding against the chassis, or possible binding against the chassis. So you can use a little hobby knife and cut off anything that's uneven. Ah! No, only kidding. Mrs. FastEddy yells at me when I do it this way, but for me it's the most accurate. There we go. All nice and smooth. Let's, at this point, take a look here, and we're going to orientate the part so that the shock screws are pointing towards us. And again, we are building the left side first, so make sure that you have the side that is marked L on everything. And all my stuff here should be marked L. I'll double check so that I'm not building it in the wrong direction. So let's go ahead and set this down. First thing that we're going to want to do is to install our bump stop screw, which is the set screw. And it's going to install into this hole right here. It's one big hole, there's only one place to put it. Make sure the orientation of your arm is correct. And we're going to install this into the top. You have to thread it in yourself. At this time, let's go ahead and just thread it in. And let's just do it until it's flush on the bottom. We're going to adjust this later. This adjusts your droop. It's actually called a droop screw. So go ahead and put that in, let it hang up. We can always, in the air like that, make it flush on the bottom. We're going to adjust it later, and it shouldn't get into the way of anything. Famous last words. At this point, let's go ahead and install the spindle. Let's take a look at it here, and you can see that the arms move upward here. We're going to want to take a look, and that's going to go towards the A arm in that direction. Okay. Now let's take these two little top hat looking bushings, slide them in like so. Got to be careful you're not tilted one way or the other, or they are going to slide out. Gets kind of tricky. At this point, make sure that you have the proper spindle holder and slide that in until it lines up. And then we're going to use the two larger button head screws in the instructions. Just going to start that one in a little bit by hand. Move around to the other side, make sure the bushing didn't fall out. Put that in. And we'll tighten them up. You don't have to crank them down. Just tighten them up till they're snug, and you should have free movement here. Might be a little bit restricted, it might not flop around, but it shouldn't bind up. Okay, now that that's done, let's go ahead and grab this portion here. Look at the directions. You're going to see that this steering portion is pointed in the proper direction. Slide this through. And these two little nubs here are going to slide into this area here, just like so. And at that point, we're going to insert our kingpin. Let's hold this sideways so that they don't slide out. Make sure that there's free movement and nothing's binding up. There's two little silver set screws that we're going to use, and we're going to screw those in. You don't really need to tighten them down, but what they're going to do is they're going to catch into the little notch there, and it's just going to hold them from sliding out. And it can be a little bit tricky as far as how tight do you make them. So let me insert into these two little holes right here, 1 and 2. For some reason I'm not getting good light today. You can see them there. So I'm going to screw it in just a little bit, and I'm going to pull on that kingpin, and you can see that it still hasn't caught yet. So I'm just going to give it another quarter turn. It still has not caught. Another quarter turn. What will happen is if you tighten it up too much, it's going to strip out. Okay, now you can see that it's caught onto that kingpin. Just going to give it like a 1/16 more, just to snug it up. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. You feel a little bit pressure. That's when you're going to want to stop and start checking your... Okay, that one hooked right up. Give it just a little bit more. Okay. Double check, pull on the pins, make sure they're not going to come out. Alright, that is it for step B6. We're going to go ahead and build the second side. This is what it should look like. Nothing should be binding up. You should have full articulation up and down and sideways. Make sure nothing's binding up. Okay, let's go ahead and build the right side, and we'll be right back. Alright, we have both sides done. Just double check your orientation on everything. Make sure that everything is in the direction that it's supposed to be going. You're going to have both of you, if you hold them like this with the just the left, yeah, the left on the left and the right on the right, your droop screws should be located here. Your steering arm should be located to the inside here, and again the same with the steering arm here, should be located on the inside, and everything should be slanted backwards. So there you have it. Let's get out the rest of our parts and we will move on to the next step.